Well, hello everyone and welcome. My name is Sharon Bonney. I'm the Executive Director for the Coalition on Adult Basic Education. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar, Advocacy, Building a Network that Engages Community, Staff, and Students. I wanted to remind everybody that you'll receive a certificate for CEU verification that will come to you directly from our site, which is Zoom. It'll come in 24 hours. So you can expect that around 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. Also, all of the information and resources, including the PowerPoint that this team will share with you, will be available on our Adult Educators repository, and I'll put the link in the chat box so that you'll have that. But there's also additional resources that you'll find there, but the resources from this webinar will be there as well. I would also just like to mention that right now we have a public awareness campaign, and that's been going strong since last year. We have 65,000 plus contacts with legislators, and you can learn more at educateandelevate.org. I want to just take a quick minute to mention that we're right in the process of trying to encourage legislators to consider $100 million more for adult education. So this really is an excellent opportunity to come together as a field and really coalesce around the mantra that we need to invest in adult education. So if you go to educateandelevate.org, you can, with 3 quick clicks, you can contact your legislators and let them know that adult education is valuable and important. I also just want to remind everybody that we have a national conference coming up, March 25th to the 28th. We're expecting about 2,000 attendees, and registration is still open. So I encourage you to go to coabe.org and click on the conference tab for more information on that. As well, at the conference, we'll have an ambassador training, and we'll have over 30 strands there at the national conference. The ambassador training will focus on training students and teams of individuals in 18 different states who then go back to their states and be able to train others as well. So special thanks to Regina Stute and Laura Porfirio, who are coordinating that for us. And now I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Burlington English. They have generously made this webinar possible. Without their sponsorship, this would have to be a paid session. So thank you so much, Robert, who is here on behalf of Burlington English.
And I want to thank Sharon and all the good folks at COABE who make up COABE such an amazingly special place. And I know for everybody who's tuned in, you're going to get an extra special treat with our Ohio friends, Jody and Sue. It's going to be a very, very worthwhile webinar. It's hard to imagine just how fast Burlington English has grown, particularly in this being so WIOA focused. But there still are some folks who are seeing us for the first time. And so if you happen to be seeing Burlington English for the first time, it really is an incredible multi-level program, all the way from basics that came out in August, as you can see, all the way to more than 40 career-specific modules, CASAS preparation, high-interest digital library, and digital literacy emphasis. I think what we really bring, as I was customer number 7 or so for Burlington when I was a local director in Florida, the real game changer with Burlington English in these WIOA focused days is being able to give teachers, whether full-time or all our friends who are part-time hourly, things at the touch of a button, resources for the classroom. So where we really make a difference is our projectable lessons that tie in seamlessly along with worksheets, print-on-demand worksheets, and everything that the students will see, whether they're learning at a distance, mobile-friendly, and in labs. So without too much ado, if you'd like to find out more, please visit us at burlingtonenglish.com/contact. And looking forward to seeing everyone, hopefully in a month or so, in Phoenix at COABE at our booth. Well, with that, I'll turn it over to, again, the great friends that we have with Jody and with Sushian. Take it from here. Thank you, folks.
Great. So this is Sharon. Thank you so much, Robert. I would like to now just introduce to you our wonderful presenters. Jody Angelone, she served in adult education for over 25 years. She is currently the Staff Training and Development Coordinator for the Ohio Professional Development Network at The Ohio State University. She's worked in so many different areas as a reading specialist, instructor, coordinator, program director. She's worked in correctional education, ABE ABLE, GED, workplace education, volunteer literacy, vocational evaluation and assessment, and professional development. And I just want to say she serves on our national board of the COABE Board of Directors, and she's just been a fantastic resource. She's our vice president for membership. So special thanks to you, Jody. We really appreciate you serving there. And then I'd also like to introduce you to Susan Sheehan. Susan is the Adult Education Services Assistant Director with the Cuyahoga County Public Library. She's the primary contact for the Aspire Greater Cleveland program, including the Aspire Grant, the Integrated English Language Civics Education Grant, and the Workplace Education Program and Project Learn program. So Susan and Jody, thank you so much and welcome. I'm going to now turn this over to you.
Great, thanks, Susan. And I want to say good afternoon and welcome to everybody. And thank you for joining us on this webinar session for, we're going to discuss advocacy and building networks. And so I'm going to take a few minutes to let Susan talk, and I'm going to switch over, or introduce herself, I guess, and I'm going to switch over to share the PowerPoint with you. During the presentation, I'm going to stop my camera, and I'll open it back up at the end during our Q&A session. So Susan, if you want to say a few words while I'm bringing up the PowerPoint, please feel free.
Susan, we can't hear you, unfortunately. I'm sorry. Great, we can hear you now, and we can see you. Oh, no, now we can't. I'm sorry, we cannot hear you.
Okay, so hopefully we can get Susan's mic figured out there. We had her earlier, so I know she's on. So I'm gonna, I have the first couple here, and we'll see if hopefully we'll work with Susan to get her mic up. And I will start this piece with advocacy and kind of go through the beginning pieces with you. So we decided we wanted to start with, with kind of an overview of what is advocacy. And so these first couple slides, we're just going to go through some of those basics, and then we're going to get into some specifics. So advocacy is arguing in favor of something such as a cause, an idea, or a policy. One can engage in advocacy by meeting with a legislator or on an important issue, writing an editorial for a newspaper, raising awareness for a cause at a community event, or even promoting an issue while having dinner with your friends. Advocacy occurs when an individual engages in dialogue about an issue they care about. It can occur in many different forms, from speaking out, letter writing, protesting, voting, or even wearing a t-shirt that just makes a statement. And so we want you to have this well-rounded thought of advocacy, that it's more than just meeting with legislators, because we're going to share with you today a lot of different types of ways that you can advocate and have your students involved in that also. So I know some people worry about this piece. How does advocacy differ from lobbying? And one piece is understanding that lobbyists are usually paid. And it's important for us to recognize that teachers and government employees are prohibited by law in many states from lobbying. And I think that's why a lot of us, we hear the word advocacy or we think about it, we think, oh, am I allowed to do that? And so we wanted to share the differences and know that you always have the opportunity to advocate in many different ways on behalf of your students and your programs and adult education field in general. So
Hello?
now, there you are, Susan. Thank you. We can hear you now.
All right. Thank you. Hi, everybody. We're very excited to be with you today. Sorry about the technical problems. My name is Susan Sheehan, and again, I am with Aspire Greater Cleveland. We are very excited to hear that there are over 300 people on this webinar, which says to us that there is definitely an interest in the field of advocacy. So we have lots to share with you today. I've already heard from Jody a little bit, and we'll continue. And we will talk to you about our session that's coming up at COABE, so we'll post that in the chat box. We'll tell you about the resources that you can download from the COABE website, and we feel that your time today will be well spent. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan. Okay, so let's continue on with why you should advocate. And so educators and families want to help their students. And it's important to know that the quality of education provided to students is helped or can be helped or harmed by the political climate. So much of what happens depends on political decisions that are made out there. And so it's important to recognize that you're the expert and you're the one with the knowledge. You know about our students, our programs, their needs, the benefits that to our communities with the services that we provide. So most representatives do not have a background in adult education, and they need those of us who know about adult education to inform them about innovations in the profession and possible solutions. The political process has a place in the school. It's an opportunity to teach about the democratic process. Educators should model appropriate civic behavior to their students. And a little bit later, Susan's going to be sharing with you some of the ways that her instructors have modeled civic behavior and how they've involved their students in that process. So, types of advocacy. What are some types of advocacy? And administrative, case advocacy, legislative, media are all areas that we want to talk about because we think that together these are all important. And I think it's also, we want you to think about including all of these types of advocacy in your advocacy plan. And when you're thinking about how you want to advocate for your program and your students. And administrative is just about building relationships and networking and educating those individuals and stakeholders around you. Case advocacy involves researching, documenting, supporting, and bridging gaps between people and those who impact their lives. And legislative advocacy is where we tend to think, we tend to go to when we think of advocacy, which is communicating with our legislators, testifying, building those relationships, and bridging the gap between government and people. And then media advocacy is those emails, social media, letter writing, building relationships, and bridging gaps between the people and the media services. It's important here to remember that creating student success stories and being proactive in the ways that you do that are really important. And I want to note that, Sharon, or Susan and I have, met several times as we were preparing for our presentation. And she shared with me that, a lot of the grant applications are now requiring student success stories. And so it's important to be proactive and create a database of stories to share. And again, Susan's going to share some of those practices with you and some of the things that her program and her staff have helped build at the local level. So now that we've addressed some of the advocacy basics, we want to share our agenda for the rest of the webinar with you. And we're going to talk a lot about grassroots advocacy and these bullet points that are underneath. And as we go through, we're going to share some very specific examples for each of these items. And then we're going to take a little bit of time to talk a little bit more about the Educate and Elevate campaign that Sharon spoke about earlier. And then allow time, hopefully, for some question and answer. And then share resources that we've built for you. And we've created a Dropbox page, and we'll be sharing that link for you with all of our resources in it so that you can go and you can look at any of those pieces on your own and use those to help build your own advocacy plan. So at this point, I'm going to turn this back over to Susan. And then Susan, as you want me to advance, just let me know and I'll move the slides forward.
Okay. Hello again. So we'll go through these different points about grassroots advocacy. I can't say enough how important it is to think about advocacy in a proactive way. So you don't want to be reactive. You don't want an email to come through and you say, okay, everybody write a letter. I mean, that works, but it really doesn't work the best. So the way I feel about it is you have to lay the foundation. You have to develop relationships. You have to create things, put them in place, and then it's very easy to roll something out when you're called upon for a call to action. So one of the things you would want to consider is creating an advocacy plan in your program. And the way we have done, not yet, well, the way we have done that is we have created a team. We have a team of folks from our program, voluntary to a point. We try to get a cross-section of staff members and students on our team. So we want somebody representing the different facets of the program. We want somebody in HSE, GED. We want somebody ESOL. We want citizenship. We want students who are in each of those classes. We want someone in workplace education. So we try to get a group together so that there's a spokesperson, so to speak, from each of the facets of the program. And that team comes up with an advocacy plan. And we have found by doing this that there is a better buy-in from the rest of the staff members on doing this. Because as you well know, our staff members are called upon to do an awful lot of things. And at first glance, a staff member may say, oh, one more thing I have to do. How am I going to fit this in? So that's why we feel that it's important to get the representatives from the different facets of your program involved so that they're speaking for the rest of the team. It's been successful in our program, and we've been doing this for the last several years. So each year we go out to the staff again and say, you know, this is the group that's on the team. Would anybody else like to join us? And sometimes a team member needs to get off the team for whatever reason. So we do try to always refresh the team so we have new ideas. So once you get that in place, the team meets just a few times a year, actually, in our case. And they create a plan. Now, an example of our plan is on the resource page, which Sharon will post on the chat, in the chat box, so that you can download that if you like. And really, it's just a list of activities. It gives the goals at the top of the sheet, and it has lots of activities that the different team members come up with that can be done in the classroom. So an example might be, for example, in the last, during fall, during the election time, there were quite a few choices about the election. One might be learn about the election process. One might be go to a city council meeting. One might be invite your local council person to your classroom. So very simple things actually are listed, but there is work that needs to be done on each one. So we ask each teacher to do 2 of those items during the course of the year. So the first half of the year, we want them to pick 1 item. So maybe it is learn all about the election system in your city. And it's a little bit more specific than that, but that's the idea. And we ask our teachers to send us pictures, send us a lesson plan, and send us any products from that assignment. So the teacher probably has about 20 different items they can select from, and they pick one that fits best for their class. If it's a math teacher, maybe they are graphing the results of the last election. Maybe they are looking at the blue and red states and figuring out the ratio. Maybe they're looking at the election results afterwards and comparing it to what their prediction was in each state. So there can be so many different things you do. But the teacher gets to select, and sometimes I know from hearsay and feedback that the teacher includes the students in that decision, and they decide what their activity is going to be. So in years past, we have had our recruiting coordinator create a database and keep it current. She still does it, but it's not so important now because of Educate and Elevate, actually. But she has always spent lots of time making sure that that was very current so that we could share with our teachers and students at any time who to send letters to or who to invite to the classroom, depending on where that class site was located. So we always made it a point of keeping that up to date, and still do. But like I say, Educate and Elevate, if you have tried it at all, it's absolutely amazing because you create a letter, and we'll see a little bit from now. You create a letter and it just sends it to everybody once you put your zip code in. So it's amazing to me. Saves a lot of time, and it's just very powerful. So anyway, so that's how we do our advocacy plan. So they get it at the beginning of the semester, let's say September. They have all of September to work on it. We do send reminders just in case. And by the end of the September, there's a due date, or at the end of the semester, there's a due date. And the teacher will send back the lesson plan that they use, any student products that were created during that time, and pictures that were taken of their activity. So the students might create a presentation folder if they went to a city council meeting, or they might present or create a collage of the pictures that they selected and put it into a PowerPoint so that they can present to their legislator when he or she comes into the classroom. So lots of different things happen, and we try to make sure that it's not an isolated activity. We want it to be integrated and flow with the unit plan. It has to make sense, so then the teachers and the students will buy into it more easily. So that's one example, and I know that's a big one. But so once that's due, then we have a little bit of time off at the holidays, and then we send out Advocacy Plan Part 2. And so for the second semester, the teachers and the students do the same thing, only they choose a different activity. And they've seen the activities already. It may be brand new students. Again, it may be brand new teachers. So they go through and select, make their decision, let our recruiting coordinator know what it's going to be, and she sends reminders. And of course, we assist with making connections with the city council person or the state senator or whomever they need to connect with. We do help the teachers and the students with that. I would say to any questions now, but I know we're saving those questions to the end. We have found that it's very powerful. And besides, you know, it being advocating, they're advocating for the program. They're advocating for whatever cause they want to talk about, for example, adult education funding. And they're also building relationships is what we're trying to do through our grassroots advocacy. So like I said in the beginning, I think it's very important to be proactive rather than reactive. I think if you start off and you lay the groundwork, you have the databases in place, you have people getting used to the idea of how important advocacy is, you have them practicing some activities. I think that's very important. They become more confident. I'm talking about staff as well. They become more confident, and they're not afraid then to reach out and say, Mr. Mayor, would you please come to our class? We want to tell you about adult education and how it's making a difference in our life. So those kinds of things happen. Okay, now you can switch, Jody. I'm showing you this slide because this was an unintended outcome, actually. And a couple of years ago, through one of the chambers of commerce that we were involved with, we won the Pride Award. And it's a very big deal to the Parma Chamber of Commerce because they have a formal ball, and you can see the picture there. Everybody was invited, all of our staff members were invited, and our school district at the time we were with, they had found some contributions that were used to pay for all the staff members to be able to attend. So it's really exciting because everybody was valued and everybody was able to attend an event like that. I was just thrilled that that could happen. So things like this happen, and you know, you then have some credentials that you can talk about, so to speak. You can put that frame up in your office, and you know, you can use that for different reasons. You can. I know that some of us are, you know, we feel like we don't like to brag. Well, sometimes you need to brag when you're talking to your legislators or when you're talking to people in your area, because that gives you credibility oftentimes. So there's an example. And could you move to the next one, please, Jody? Besides awareness, and I guess it certainly is connected here, if you don't take part in Facebook and Twitter, I highly recommend that you do. It's very easy to create a program page. You don't want to create an individual page. You want to look into it a little bit more and make sure that it's a business page. And be sure with your institution, that's okay, because not all institutions want you to have a private Facebook page for your department, nor a Twitter account for your department. So you need to look into that. But it was very, very successful. We used it. We had 2 people who were in charge of each account. And so those 2 people kept it up and made sure those accounts were always current. And you and I both know that when you go to a website or a Facebook page and you see information that is 3 weeks old, that you saw 3 weeks ago, you think, oh boy. So you want to make sure that it's always exciting, that people want to come back to check out to see what's new. So you need people to know how to use the accounts, first of all. You need to know how to use, what the lingo is, what is a hashtag, those kinds of things. And then you should dedicate those things just to the program. So you want to gain followers who are community members, who are site managers, who are students, encourage your teachers. Some of the teachers like to let us know that they want to post certain things on there, which we do. And it's very informative about the program. And it's amazing, it's not like we had 1,000 likes at once or 1,000 followers on Twitter. It took a long time to build the number, but it's really come to be, and it's very exciting. And a lot of people don't comment, but a lot of people hit like or share. And through your institution, you should be able to track that. And if you talk to your PR department or your marketing department or whomever you work with, they should be able to tell you that kind of information, so you can see how many people were on your Facebook page, for the month of February, or what were the peak times that people were on there, or which days of the week are most popular for people to be on there. Twitter, I find, is a different audience. It's more people like you and me sharing with each other thoughts and resources, and I really appreciate that. I always have to allot time to go on there so I can click on some of the links, because they're such valuable information. And I know that the Ohio Aspire PDN program posts a lot, and it's wonderful because there's a lot of good things on there. So I highly recommend those 2 at least, and maybe Instagram too. We just don't have that for the program, but that seems to be very popular. So again, try that out too for advocacy, because you can be, and again with Twitter especially, I feel like you can be advocates on Twitter because you are sharing thoughts and ideas and links, which you can on Facebook too, but it just seems that Twitter is that different audience that can pick up on those things. Next is local events. And again, these are some of the grassroots ways that you can be advocates for your program and be advocates for adult education. These were some of the ideas on the advocacy plan. So on the left, the picture shows students writing letters and designing booklets for the legislators. And I believe that particular picture was in response to a legislator who had been. The students had given information to the legislator, a packet or a folder that they had designed, but they are responding and writing letters of thank you, and they're sharing their stories now that the legislator has been there and visited, and now it's a follow-up. So that particular class keeps a great relationship going with this particular legislator because he's very much a champion for adult education, and they have, again, the serendipity comes into play too. So again, they find the right legislator and they take advantage of that legislator, and they keep in touch and they keep building that relationship. So that person comes in periodically to talk to the class too. The middle picture is a local food drive. I always suggest to the teachers to find out what's going on at their site, their class site, their location, so that they can keep a good relationship going with their class site, with the manager there, with the other staff who do other things at that site. And they can tap into their community service projects This one is a local food drive, so the site itself was having a campaign, and this particular ESOL class was collecting food and contributing to that as well. We have had other things at other sites where they have toy drives at the holidays, or coats and mittens kinds of drives. And our students need to be part of the community. I mean, we're teaching them to be good citizens as well. The way advocacy comes into this is because people learn about our program. I mean, here we are doing this too. We are important, and please know that we're here. So I feel like the awareness and the advocacy is built through these activities. On the picture on the right, which is a collage of pictures, one of my very favorite, Parma, if you've ever know anything about Parma, Ohio, it's part of, it's a suburb of Cleveland, Cuyahoga County, and they're known for their pierogies. So there are a lot of ethnic groups in Parma, and I hope you will come to visit there sometime, because I know that many people have, and they'll always stop and get some strudel at Rudy's Strudel, or they'll stop and get pierogies, all different kinds of great restaurants. So this pierogi run was held on July 4th, and it's held every year on July 4th. The person who sponsors it is the city council president in Parma. His name's Sean Brennan. He happens to be a government teacher at one of the local school districts. And he is another champion that we have come across. He comes to our classes and speaks to our students, our evening students, about government. And he will work with the teachers ahead of time, and he'll come in and talk about whatever facet of government they'd like him to talk about. He's very personable, and he's very genuine. The students love him. So this particular year, I think this was 2 years ago, he said, "Hey, Sue, how about if you promote the pierogi run with the students, since they pretty much know me, and what we'd like to do for your program is to give you part of the proceeds from the pierogi run." So we were thrilled to do that. We had quite a few staff members who became runners that day. You could run or walk, and it was held at a community college nearby. And some of them, you can see here, brought their children to be in the run or the walk, and they had a great time, and students took part also. So it was very fun. We got our name out. We were in the program. You know, there were announcements made. It's a very big deal. Each year it grows. And then we received money from the event at the end. Other organizations were sponsored as well, but I believe we received about $1,000. So that was very exciting. And we were able to use that in the program. So those are some examples of some things just to get, you know, become known, and to become, or to build relationships, because I think that is at the heart of advocacy. I don't think you're a very effective advocate if you're just walking into somewhere new, for the most part anyway, and, you know, sharing your thoughts. I think if you have that relationship built, if you've done things in the past, if people know about you, if you're building a good relationship as you go, I think it says much more when you step in and try to do something for adult education in particular. Also, like I said before, I think through all these activities, I think we are building better students, better citizens, actually. And I think that lots of good things are happening. There are many levels to this advocacy plan and activity that we implement in our program. Next page, please. So I'm going to turn this back to Jody, and she's going to share some of the videos that have been created by us and others. This is another way to get right at the grassroots and make sure that you have something in your pocket to take when you're meeting with your legislator, when you're meeting with whomever, to tell them your story. Go ahead, Jody.
Thanks, Susan. So I want to share just a little bit about the success stories and about some of the videos. Margot's story and Taisha's story are interesting in that they both are individuals, students from Ohio, but both of those individuals were featured through some national support from COABE, and they were picked as advocates to be a part of a video series as the Educate and Elevate campaign was starting out. And Taisha was a homeless single mom enrolling in the Cleveland area Adult Basic Education Medical Pathway Program. And her story is very interesting, and the video is very well done and shows kind of her process of what she had to go through. And just as an update, she's now graduated, has a home and a car, and has really been a great success story for us to be able to share with our communities and with our programs and with our legislators. And Margot has been really great. She's really well known in the COABE community in that Margot was with her program for several years. She was one of those students that we all have, and we talk about over the years that they're just there and they've made attempts maybe several times to get their GED unsuccessfully, but they keep coming back. And that was really Margot. It took her several years and she never gave up. And she finally was able to pass and get her high school credential. And now she volunteers and tutors and advocates for other adults. So she's really become an advocate for herself, but for other students too. And Margot has she's really befriended Senator Sherrod Brown for us, and she's become a great advocate for us at the state level. And she's also been with us at Capitol Hill Day in Washington, D.C. And it's really been wonderful to see how she has grown and the position that she's been able to take as a student on behalf of her and other students and the programs. And so both of these videos can be found on YouTube, and I have the links. And for the sake of time, I'm not going to necessarily show those right now, but I will be providing those links, and I really encourage you to go out and look at those. So again, I shared that both these videos, we are fortunate that they were done professionally and they were done at the national level, but they don't have to be. So in between, I have some examples of two other videos. One was done through Parma, their ESOL advocacy class, and another through Merrick House, another program here in Ohio. And Parma used that Animoto video piece, which is another option that you guys have. And I know Susan maybe would like to talk a little bit more about that. And then Merrick House is another interesting one. We talked about kind of that media advocacy. Their program administrator there was able to connect with, I believe it was an advisory committee or someone in the outreach that was with media and the local TV station. And they came in because of her outreach and her advisory, and wanted to know if they could in any way support getting the word out about Merrick House and about their program and what they do. And so the local reporter came in with their television station camera, and they met with her and the students for the day and spent some time, and they created this really great video that they were able to use for awareness, both in terms of recruiting for students, but also an opportunity for them to share that with local stakeholders. So it doesn't have to be done at a national or professional level. There are a lot of options and things that you can do to create your own videos and use those things for student promotion as well as recruitment. They share some of their adult education statistics. I know that in the Merrick House one, Jessica takes some great deal of time to talk about the statistics in the Cleveland area of individuals without a high school diploma and low-level literacy and homeless and living in poverty. And so she's able to share that through that video to show the value of her program and what they're doing to support those individuals. And again, I want to reiterate and share, and Susan may too, but these also become important when you're writing grants and for additional grants, and an opportunity to show these success stories and to be able to send individuals out to these links and for them to see these stories that are about your students and the success that they've had. And again, Susan said it, but keeping a database, being proactive, and able to have these things on hand can be very valuable to your program.
Definitely. And I wanted to share that, again, like I said before, there are levels to all this, as I'm sure you all realize. When our teachers and our students together were making the videos, for example, Jessica and I think Stephanie, might have been involved in that top one. They held workshops so they could teach other staff members how to do it. And so I thought that was very valuable also. And one more thought about that is something I said earlier. It's so nice to have these in that database. Just links to them, and you keep track of what you have and what you can use it for. And I know that I remember Stephanie went to Meet Your Legislator Day once through our state organization, OACE, and she and another staff member doubled up, went together. She had the video on her iPad and sat down at the desk with the legislator. We're talking, and brought the iPad up, opened it up, and showed the video. And what a great way to do it. What a great way to do it. The videos are only a couple minutes long, and it says so much, besides leaving behind a folder full of information about your program. It just is very powerful.
Okay. So we want to take a little bit of time to talk about the resources that we've made available for you through our Dropbox. And so again, we want to talk about the value of incorporating advocacy in the classroom for our students. So we've collected some lessons and information on class outings and service projects, as well as the information on the videos that we just shared. And all this information is available for you in the Dropbox. So some of the things that you'll find under lessons include Ohio lesson plans. They've been categorized. There are some on civics and democracy. There's others on politics and government. And all of these lessons, they're in our Ohio template, but they have, they're connected to the CCR standards. So those of you who are using those across the country, those ties are already connected to these lessons. They're identified within the educational levels. The NRS levels are all identified on the lessons. And there's information on differentiating the lessons, as well as information on extending and scaffolding those lessons for your use. And so we encourage you to look at those and share those and use those if you would like. And then I've also found some additional resources that that others have shared with me, either through presentations or teachers have shared with me through sessions that I've done with them. And so within the Dropbox, you'll also see some additional online lessons and resources on elections and civic preparation, American history, democracy, Bill of Rights, Constitution. And then, of course, I always want to keep in mind, too, that there's the Change Agent is another resource that's out there, comes out through World Ed, that always has some really great information in terms of, and each year when we're in the election process and everything, they seem to dedicate one of their Change Agent pieces to that. And so that's another format that I encourage you to look at and utilize also. Susan, is there
I'd
anything?
like to jump in for a minute, Jody.
Yes.
As we look at the topics, we always think of our RLA and social studies teachers. But you have to think a little bit bigger and think about how you can involve your math and science teachers as well. Sometimes it's all one and the same teacher, but I know that, for example, in our program, we often have partner teachers who are teaching the different subjects. So we want to make sure that we can bring those math and science teachers in along with the RLA and social studies teachers. I wanted to share one other activity with you that fits in here. I'm all about tapping into what's going on in your community so that you can bring that to life with the students and they can feel empowered to be able to discuss and know something about that topic. I always picture people going to a backyard barbecue in the summer and being able to talk about something. And I think that is very empowering for our students. So the one topic I wanted to mention is, in Cuyahoga County in Ohio, which is the county that encompasses Cleveland and the suburbs, there is an initiative called One Community Reads. And this year, the book that is being promoted by this initiative is Evicted. And it's by Matthew Desmond. I'll put that in the chat box as well. But what we have been doing, this is being sponsored by our City Club, by our Playhouse Square, by all of the library systems in Cuyahoga County. We have a total of 9 library systems with about 60 or 70 different libraries themselves, branches. And this book is just being read all throughout the county. There are book discussions, there are related films that have been created on the topics. So it's a very, very big initiative. And then Matthew Desmond, the author, is coming to one of our theaters in Playhouse Square on March 15th. And it's sponsored by the City Club and the library system. And so it's free of charge to anybody who wants to attend. So it's very exciting to be able to tap into this because, of course, being with the Cuyahoga County Library System, I have access to the books and can provide them to the teachers and to the students. They can borrow those, have them, use them as writing prompts, class discussions, again, math and science ideas in there too, talking about rent, talking about your budget, how much you can afford, discussing and debating pros and cons. How does a landlord look at eviction? How does a tenant look at eviction? So there's a lot of different ways to tackle it, but we have made use of that and we are very excited about that. And many of our teachers have taken class sets of books out and are having the students read the book. Not always can the student read the entire book. So that's why we pick and choose topics sometimes, and we use certain prompts for writing. There are also so many discussion questions online about it that it really is easy for a teacher. And then what we've done is encourage the teachers and students to attend the Playhouse Square event, which we imagine that a lot of our students haven't attended a performance there before. So we're very excited to be able to offer that opportunity to them. And again, it's awareness, it's empowerment, it's bringing to light the whole topic of evicted, how to solve it, and especially when everybody in the community is taking part. Our program, our teachers, our students can all feel part of that community, part of that civic mindedness. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan. So in addition to lessons and those items that you can use in the classroom, we wanted to share with you just some of the places where you can get resources to get the facts, because we know that in addition to our success stories and our student stories, a lot of times when we're talking with legislators, we're talking with stakeholders, they want to know more about the stats and the data also. So we just wanted to make sure you're aware of some of the different resources that are valuable and that are out there for you. Of course, COABE and the COABE website and the Educate to Elevate website has a great deal of information and a fact sheet that you can use, and it gives you a really great perspective for that national level, as well as NCL. And then the National State Directors of Adult Ed, they have a blue book, and that has all of the data for the states, broke down by state. So that's another resource, as well as Pro Literacy and World Ed, two other organizations out there that have some information on their websites that can support you in finding those pieces also. We also want to make sure that you're aware that your state professional association a lot of times has information that may be more pertinent to you, information about data within your state and within regions of your state and your local areas, as well as your state adult education office. And I know that that is different in different states. Some of them are under workforce, some are under the education, State Education Association. We're under the Ohio Higher Ed. But they all have some good information there and data sheets that you can use when you're talking with individuals, again, either community members, stakeholders, or at the national level. I also want to say, too, that the COABE app, if you have the COABE app on your phone, it's something that we strongly encourage at the conference. But even if you're not at the conference or attending, it's something that you may want to download and think about. There are a lot of resources on that COABE app, including information about the Capitol Hill Day, and there's some great resources that you can, again, use and share at your local level. Okay, so just a little bit about, we couldn't have a COABE webinar on advocacy and not share information about the Educate and Elevate campaign. And just because it's been such I know for me, I've never been more excited about a campaign or a national piece, I don't think, in all my 20-some years in adult education as I am about this. And I think it's because I really am seeing the impact that this campaign has had. I've been fortunate enough to be at the Capitol Hill Days in Washington, D.C., but I've also been fortunate enough I've done some state level stuff, and I'm really excited that after I do a local presentation, I've had individuals come up and say, how can we use this? How can we get more information about this so that I can share this with my community members at my local level? And so I've had opportunity to go out and use this Educate and Elevate campaign in other ways. And so at this point, I want to encourage you to do the same. I've had the opportunity to go to a program and share it with their community members. It was an ask that I had after a conference. And it was really great because it was a smaller group. I think there were 16 community members and stakeholders present from all different walks within the community. But I was able to share this national campaign with them and then show them how they could be involved and how they can help support their organization. And it was a great way to share information about adult education. But the other thing that I walked away with, it was really great for the local program because it really got the other community members engaged in what was really happening in their community, and they were able to learn a lot more about adult education in their community and how they can support it. So it really has had, I think, its fingerprints and an impact at all levels. And I want to make sure that I take time to share a little bit about the goals, and then I want to take you for a minute to the website and just show you just a few quick things. I know if you maybe have been on one before, so I don't want to go through everything in detail, but I do want to show you how quick and easy it is for you to use it, and make sure that you're aware of the tools that you can use at all levels. So the campaign really had three goals in mind, and that was to create a process that we could bring together adult educators across the country and have outreach at the local, state, and federal level to show that adult education, with its 55,000 members, had a place in that we had a value in terms of our communities and what we do, and we really needed something at this point to support us on a national level and to support our funding. And also to inform and educate our officials about the relevancy of what we do. And so we've really been able to gather data and stories and innovations and share key messages continuously with our legislators. And of course, we've made some specific asks at the national level, and that was really our ask to be funded at the appropriation level of $649 million that was called for in the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. And of course, that's important because that act funds a lot of our programs and what we do, and we want to fulfill the requirements of our grants and that they have put for us within that. And so we need the funding to support what it is we do. So the next piece I'm going to go to is, it's going to take me a second here. I'm going to switch over, but I want to show you a little bit about the campaign toolkit. And 1 second here.
While Jody's doing that, I'll share another grassroots advocacy idea with you. And I forgot to mention it before, but one of our teachers, which I'm so excited about, she always works the polls on election day. And so she was sharing that with the students, and they were so interested in finding out all about that and the election process that she had quite a few of them also sign up to work the polls. So that was very exciting. Another unexpected outcome.
Thanks, Susan. So hopefully you all are seeing the campaign outreach toolkit.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to look at this take action button here in a minute, because we currently, as Sharon stated at the beginning of the webinar, have an action that we'd like you all to consider taking. But the toolkit just has a wealth of information to make everything that Susan and I have just talked about, really easy. A lot of information at your fingertips. And so You know, the fact sheet has information on investing in America's future, on the economy, how adult education addresses learners and the economic needs of employers. So again, if you're not sure about what to talk about with your stakeholders or legislators, there's a lot of information here. You can go and you can look at this and pull some of this information and take back when you're thinking about going out and talking with other stakeholders. There's fact sheets. As we talked about some of that media and connecting and the value of connecting with media in your area, there's media advisory piece and news release information. There's a campaign video, and that video has been created and it can be added or linked to your websites. It's something that we'd encourage you to do. Opportunity so that way when individuals are going to learn more about your program or about your state, they can also click on that webinar and get more information and kind of that national perspective. So
this is very exciting to me, Jody, because I remember when I was brand new and I was so nervous about speaking to a legislator. This is perfect. Everything is right there at your fingertips.
It is, and you know, as many years as I've been in adult education, I had never really gone to the national level. I'd been at state legislator days and talked with individuals down there from the local program perspective, but I'd never been to Capitol Hill Day until I was a part of this campaign and COABE, and I was very nervous, but it was really great. We had, you know, great planning and great support, and all this information really helps you when you get in there to talk to someone, and you learn that your legislators are individuals just like you, and they're usually from your hometown or your area or your community, and they're really interested in finding out what's going on and what we're doing to support their constituents and their area. So they're all about economic growth and development and things that we can do to build their communities. So it really helps to put you at ease to have all this information available to you when you're going in there. So again, there's legislator talking points. There's information for sharing with employers about starting some of your student success stories and testimonials and how to get some of those things going. And opportunities for when you've met with a legislator for follow-up, you know, postcards that you can send, letters, sample letters that your students can send to legislators. So really a wealth of information here that you can use. But I want to go back to our current action right now with investing in adult education. And so there's a petition that you can sign to bring a visibility to adult education. If you do that, you'll see if I click on that action, it'll show that I've already done that piece. So you can also send an email, and it's once you go here to the site, you can click on Take Action. If you've already been here, your information is automatically filled in. So this is information I don't have to keep putting in. Once I've done it one time, I can click Remember Me, and it's there. From there, I can hit Submit. And once I hit Submit, then all of my, the individuals will come up. So in this case, we are looking at an action that really is at the federal level. So it is set to go out to, in Ohio, those representatives that I have at the national level. But it's an opportunity for you to, you can keep the message header, or you can put your own message header in there. There's a message that's in here about the current action that we'd like you to take, but there's also an opportunity for you to insert information about your local program or about your students or about what you're doing and why you would like for them to support adult education. And so it's really an opportunity for you to share with your legislators information about your program and its value in the community. And once you've done that, all you have to do is click on Submit, and that information goes out to those legislators that have been identified. Like I said, what's really great about this is this tool also includes a lot of your local representatives. So you have the opportunity, if you want to send something to your state legislators, to your county commissioners, to your large city mayors. Those have all been identified on here also.
And then another exciting thing about this is your students receive letters back from these legislators. And they're so excited about that. And they bring those to class and share and feel like, you know, they've made a difference.
Okay. Thanks, Sharon. Or thanks, Susan. I have Susan and Sharon. So I know we're close to the end here, but I know that I do want to take a few minutes for those of you that have some time so that we can do a quick question and answer session. And I'm going to come back to the slide with some questions that you might want to think about. But I also want to share with you this information will be posted. The webinar will be posted on the COABE website. Information will be sent to you. But this is the Dropbox that we've created. So those items that Susan has talked about today, there's a whole folder with the Ohio lesson plans. There's a folder on here with all the information from Susan's site, including a sample of her advocacy plan and some of the activities that her teachers and students have done, as well as a wealth of other information that hopefully you can use as you move forward with your plan and your advocacy efforts. So if you have a few questions, we'd like to open this up with Sharon too, so that we can maybe address some of those questions. And we've actually given you a few here that we've given you to respond to.
Hi, everybody. Jody, could I say just a couple words about the Educate and Elevate campaign?
Please. Okay,
great. So I just wanted to thank the many people who've taken action, because we've had over 65,000 connections with legislators. That's been a really important piece. And as Jody showed, if you go in there and you educateandelevate.org and you click, it's just 3 quick clicks, and then you're able to really amplify your reach. But I wanted to point out that there's a few different initiatives. The first one is right now we're really trying to work with legislators for $100 million extra in the WIOA budget. So if you're able to do that, now is really the time to raise your hand for adult ed and to let legislators know that that's valuable to you. The other thing I wanted to mention, which I know Jody had talked about, is this, and Susan, is the student piece. They almost always get a response back from legislators, and we hear that using this tool, it's able to, for whatever reason, it's very powerful. It's able to break through the red tape that typically there would be in place and to really be impactful. So I just wanted to encourage you to really have your students go on here and use this to make a difference for adult education. And that was all I wanted to mention.
Thanks, Sharon. I appreciate that, because that's true. And I have to say that, I've been doing some advocacy efforts for years, and this is the first time that I've gotten instant replies or specific emails back from some of my legislators. So I echo that statement.
Thank you. We're also Zooming using this tool, Zooming into board meetings, community meetings, state conferences, and sharing about the Educate and Elevate campaign. So if you're interested, you can just shoot me an email at sharonbonney@coabe.org, and I'd be happy to talk with you about that.
And Sharon, I know that we're kind of at the end of our session and tight on time, but are there any specific questions that you think we should address before we finish up, or we can? Or Susan and I can also respond and send information back out too if we need to.
Oh, wow. There's some great questions here. We are at the top of the hour. So Jody, if you'd like, we can take these questions and we'll have them, and we can get right back to the people who've submitted them.
That would be great.
Excellent. So with that, then I'd like to just take a minute here to thank our presenters, Susan and Jody. Thank you so much for your time on this webinar. And then I'd like to turn it back to Robert Breitbart just to say a couple more words before we end.
Hey, thank you again to everyone. Looking forward one more time to seeing everyone in Phoenix. And again, I would be remiss if I didn't share that Burlington is just filled with things that would be so helpful. These are examples of things that students would see as they really get their greater awareness built of not just being in class, but being part of their communities, and everything that all of these great efforts of Elevate and Educate are doing, including projectable lessons here for the teachers to make it really come alive even in the classroom, and being part again of their communities, both local and national. Well, with that, again, thank you to all attending, and I'll turn it back over to the ladies. Thanks so much.
Wonderful. Susan and Jody, do you have any last words before we end?
I just wanted to thank everybody for being part of this. It's so important, and I'm glad you spent your valuable time with us today.
Yeah, and I echo that, and I just want to say, please take time to go out and review the resources, but if there are other things that you'd like to ask, Susan and I will look at those questions. I'm sure we'll get together with Sharon to make sure that we have those, and we'll try to address those and get those back out to you. But again, thank you for your time.
Jody, if you're able to put the link to the Dropbox in the chat box, we are getting that request.
Okay.
We have a question here asking who won the New Orleans registration. Great question. Kathy Olison or Tracy Olison is the winner of the New Orleans registration, and that will also be in the membership update that is going out tomorrow morning.
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for your time. We'll see you on the next webinar.
Thank
Bye
you.
now.